All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else? And the video I'm bringing you today, we are going to go over the 6.2.0 patch notes. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, that have stumbled upon my channel for the first time, I go over the patch notes and I talk about, how they're impacted as it pertains to PvP. I am not an expert in the PvE area, so I would recommend going and checking out like Lyco's channel or I'llcast or something like that. I don't want to have you watch my entire video and be like, hey, what about trials and all this other stuff. That's not me, so you'll get better information from them. I'd just be talking out of my ass. I try to keep the talking out of my ass to a minimum. So yeah, we're gonna dive through these changes. We're gonna dive through the sets, talk about them, their strengths and their weaknesses, and yeah, but before we do that, some news came out today that Microsoft bought ZeniMax. They bought ZeniMax Online Studios for what, $7.5 billion. It's a big deal. I talked about it in a few previous videos, and I don't want to speculate too much because we have no idea what's going to happen. But you're seeing more and more of Microsoft wanting to get into the gaming industry with some of the things that they've done, and so it's kind of optimistic that they've done it, considering where our economy's kind of been in the United States. I kind of talked about it in a previous video about how it looked like ZeniMax was attempting to save money, and it looks like they were trying to sell the company. So I think that makes sense. Whether or not the status quo stays the same for this game, or if they pump some money into the game or into the studio to upgrade the game, I have no idea. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of exciting because Microsoft is obviously a good company. They're successful at what they do. So yeah, I mean, hopefully it doesn't take the Mixer route, where they dumped a bunch of money, they did a splash thing, and then they disappeared. However, if the splash thing is just upgrading the servers and then disappearing, that's fine by me. So I don't know. It's interesting. I think we're gonna have to stay tuned and see what happens. But they said they're not going to really. I don't know. It's a big deal. It's worth talking about, but yeah, anything is just speculation at this point. But yeah, I think there's hope for some optimism there, I suppose. So yeah, let us dive into 6.2.0. So we got all this. I'm gonna go by the new zone and all that. We are going to go in the new solo arena. I will be doing videos discussing the new solo arena because there's now gear worth getting for PvP in the solo arena. So for those of you guys that don't know, I used to do Maelstrom Arena quite a bit because I used to farm the weapons for PvP. I actually know how to PvE a little bit, so it's gonna be fun to do this. It'll be fun to do a guide for you guys and get some information out there, and hopefully help you guys farm it as easily as possible. So new item sets. We got overland sets, void color, max health, max magicka, spell damage. When you take damage, your spell damage is increased by 24 for 5 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. This effect can occur once every half second. Reaching 20 stacks, the duration is doubled but can no longer be refreshed. Now, a lot of you guys are reading this and you're like, wow, that looks really familiar. It should look familiar because magicka now has magicka fury. This is void collar is now magicka fury. Awesome change. This is very exciting. Obviously, it's just such a good proc condition. I know Fury got nerfed. I know Fury isn't as powerful as it was 2 patches ago, but the proc condition that you get, there's a lot of magicka based builds that take, you can't dodge incoming damage. If you're a Sork or a Nightblade, you can avoid it with Shade or Streak. But other classes like Magden, Mag DK, Magplar, those types of classes, Mag Necro, you're going to be able to use this set. And this is just, it's a good set. I'll definitely be getting it myself. I'll probably throw it on my Magplar. Pretty exciting. Witch Knight's Defiance, medium armor. This one's interesting too. Weapon damage, weapon damage, weapon damage. Increases your weapon damage by 369 against poison enemies. So 760-ish weapon damage unbuffed overall. It's going to be interesting to see where this scales out, but it is all weapon damage. It's all weapon damage. It scales with all the major buffs. I think this is going to have its place. I could definitely see this being utilized on like a Stam DK since they have major and minor brutality. Minor brutality in their kit, and then major brutality with rally and whatnot. So I think this is an interesting set. We'll have to compare it to some other sets and see exactly how it scales. I doubt it's going to be as much damage as, you know, some of the other harder hitting sets, but the fact that it's it's all weapon damage and it's going to scale our healing too is pretty tempting. So both these are all already like, they're definitely not no's. Let's go look. Radiant Bastion. Max health, weapon damage, max health. Deal 10% of all direct damage done to you back to the attacker, up to 4250 damage. I know a lot of you guys are looking at this and you're like, wow, you know, what is this set? Well, this is Thews of the Harbinger 2.0. So all those high health builds can now stack both of these and do even more damage to you. So yeah, not much else to say about it. You know, you don't have to block to do this. It just deals 10% of the direct damage done to you back to the attacker. So it doesn't scale off your max health or anything like that. It's just flat 10%. So pretty interesting. Now we're on to the crafted sets. Weapon and spell damage. Crit chance, weapon and spell damage. All right. Adds 469 weapon and spell power to your weapon skill abilities. Increase the cost of your non-weapon skill abilities by 5%. I mean, it's crafted. We'll have to play around with this one. It doesn't seem that good, to be honest. This just doesn't seem that good. I don't know. We'll look at it, but yeah, I'm not really intrigued by that one. Ethereal Ascension, armor, max health, armor, adds 77 armor. This is a lot of armor. Increase the cost to block, sprint, dodge, and break free by 25%. So, I mean, this is a lot. I mean, 10,000 armor all the time, but increasing the cost of block, sprint, dodge, and break free by 25% is probably a deal breaker. 25% cost increase is a lot. So I'm trying to imagine a build where, like, I don't know. I'll have to look and mess around with it. Like I said yesterday in my video, like when you're looking at strong sets, you want to look at sets that give you a lot of something. And this is giving you a lot of armor, but the 25% cost increase is a lot to work around. Like 25% is a lot. If it was 10 or 15%, I think it would make it a lot more manageable. I mean, I'll have to check to see what the reduced cost and chance could do in these situations, but I don't think it's going to be enough. This is it's an interesting set. It's definitely an interesting set, but I just think this 25% is probably a bit too much on paper. I mean, I very well could be wrong. This is just me looking at it the first time. Legacy of Karth, crit chance, weapon and spell damage, offensive penetration, giggity. Enemies affected by your alchemic poisons take 1973 disease damage every 1 second. Wow. This is an interesting proc set. We'll have to mess with this one a little bit too. I mean, this is a nice little proc. On top of double dot poisons. That's a lot of pressure. And I mean, 2, 3, and 4 pieces okay. It's not, I don't know. I guess we'll disease damage. I don't know, guys. I mean, it's not bad, but it doesn't look good either, if that makes sense. Arena weapons, frenzied momentum, max stamina. While momentum is active, casting stamina abilities generates a stack of frenzied momentum for 10 seconds up to 5 times. Upon reaching max stacks, your next heavy attack will consume all stacks and release a violent explosion of energy around your target, dealing 9,028 physical damage to them and all enemies within 8 meters of them. So I showed this set on when they were on the PTS yesterday. It had a 19,000 tooltip. This is going to scale higher. I'm going to assume it's going to be in the 12 to 15k range. It should scale higher. 9,028 is, you know, that's before all of your other passes and stuff come into play. But this is an interesting set. I was thinking about it a little bit more, and you know, they put a 2H. They put a proc set on momentum, which is what everybody running a 2H is using. What's going to be interesting is, does it have to be on your front bar? You know, so if you pop rally and then you're activating skills in your back bar, like your buff skills, you know, is this going to proc on your front bar, or do you have to hit D swing or sweeps or surprise attack or whatever? Like, do you have to hit those 5 times or what? But this is very interesting, and this coincides, depending on the tooltip damage, this coincides very, very well with Nightblade burst. You know, spectral bow plus in cap. I mean, if you guys watch a lot of my Nightblade content, I do a lot of heavy attack in cap spec bows from stealth, and the fact that I get a proc chance, you know, I get this proc with my heavy plus the in cap plus the spec bow. I mean, that's going to be pretty, I think that's going to be pretty devastating for the amount of damage you can do. I think this is, we'll have to go look at it on the PTS, but I think this is definitely worth getting on a few builds. I mean, this is, you look at this with, you know, like Stamsork's new spammable. You know, you can you can stack a lot of damage really quickly. I think this is going to be a popular weapon in PvP, but we'll have to see how this scales exactly and how it exactly procs. You know, because if it procs off stuff off the back bar, it's going to make it pretty easy to use. Void Bash, Power Bash adds 965 maximum health. When you deal damage with Power Bash, you apply Call of the Void to yourself for 2 seconds. Enemies within 12 meters are immediately pulled to you. After the Call of the Void ends, you apply Major Maim to the enemies in the area for 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 13 seconds. Now, I did read this earlier. You look at Major Maim and you're like, holy crap, why are you giving Major Maim for 10 out of 13 seconds? The major and minor buffs got adjusted. So Major Maim is currently 30% or 25%, and it got nerfed substantially. So when you see these buffs, keep in mind that we're going to get to this, that they're all getting adjusted. So don't freak out. Like I did the first time I saw it, I was like, holy shit, you're really giving Major Maim for 10 out of 13 seconds? That's ridiculous. This looks like a good set. Anytime you hit Power Slam or Power Bash, which is reverb or Power Slam, people are pulled into you. This has a lot of utility in group play situation. You know, people within 12 meters is a pretty large area. And think about it with like a vulnerability ult, you know, pulling people in, you know, any sort of combination like that. Like you reverb somebody by you and you pull everybody else in and you drop a vulnerability ult. Like it's an interesting set. Plus you're tanky. I think this has a lot of utility. I'm definitely going to mess around with this one. Executioner's Blade. Hidden Blade deals 200% more damage to targets under 25% health when you're standing behind them. I mean, 200% is a lot. I can't remember what Hidden Blade scales to right now, to be honest. It's been a long time since I've used it. Yeah, we'll have to look at this. We'll have to look at this one too, because 200% is a lot. But yeah, I don't know exactly what that is. Point Blank Snipe. You know, Snipe needed buffs. We all know that they did, so it's good that they did this. 103 weapon damage. Increases your damage done with Snipe by 33% against targets that are within 7 meters of you. So you got to be up close and personal to do 33% more damage. As you guys know, as a Nightblade, you're already going to do this. I don't understand. Like, okay. Snipe's already busted, okay? Snipe is already, you know, it's desyncing people's health bars. It's doing a shit ton of damage. There's no, I mean, you're adding risk to do 33% more damage. But if there's nobody in the area, there's no risk because they're going to die. Like, I have a 20k plus tooltip with Snipe as it stands right now, and you're going to give me 33% more damage on top of that? Like, that's what you're going to do? Okay. Okay. Well, that person's probably dead. So, yeah, this is definitely a set worth getting if you like using Snipe. Like I said, I don't understand why they keep buffing Snipe. Like, if Snipe didn't desync the way it does, it wouldn't be that big of a deal to me, you know, but it does. Like, I've gotten desynced from 37k health to 0, you know, full health to 0, and I got hit by 5 snipes. I didn't see a single one. It needs to be fixed, and you keep adding more and more damage to it, and people are getting more and more frustrated. And yeah, I mean, fix the skill before you start buffing the damage by this much. Like, this is crazy. Wrath of Elements, the weakness to elements. 2-piece spell pen. Okay, nice. Casting weakness to elements on a target within 15 meters of you causes a surge of elemental energy to tether you between you for 10 seconds. While the tether persists and you remain in range, enemies touching the tether take 2140 flame, shock, or frost damage every 1 second. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. This is, like I said, this looks pretty nice. A few people commented on this on the video yesterday. You can front or back bar it. Like you could back bar a Frost Staff and put your Ellie Drain on there. I mean, it's free damage as long as people are in the tether. If you're fighting a bunch of people, you're going to have this free proc damage. Plus the 2-piece, the Perfected with the Spell Pen. That's a nice 2-piece bonus. I mean, this is a nice set with a free cast proc ability. You know, it's free to cast Weakness to Elements. So it's free. You get this this AoE proc damage, and you get Spell Pen. This looks like a pretty nice bonus. So all of these arena weapons look interesting and worth testing out so far. So now you guys can see why I'm going to be doing the new arena. Force Overflow, the Force Siphon, Max Magicka. Casting Force Siphon on a target within 15 meters of you causes a surge of magical energy to tether between you for 10 seconds. While the tether persists and you remain in range, you and your group members in the tether restore 175 magicka and stamina every 1 second. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. Holy crap. That's 315 magicka and stamina recovery. Holy crap. Okay. So I've never really used Force Siphon. I can't remember exactly what Force Siphon does, but the fact that you're going to get essentially 350 magic and stamina recovery while this is up, and it lasts for 10 seconds with a 10-second cooldown. The thing is when you're fighting outnumbered, players just don't, there's going to be so much going on. It's going to be interesting to see what this proc condition is, because if the proc is kind of hard to see, you know, if the beam isn't easy to see and understand, like how many people are going to know, like, hey, I have this beam on me, it's not hurting me, I should step away. You know, like you have so many types of builds that are built to just kind of like when you're getting XV1 down, they're built to just stand there, and you can proc it on them and they're not going to move, and they're literally just going to give your entire group 350 magic and stamina recovery. That's super interesting. I mean, you're gonna have to find the bar space, but that is super interesting. And 15 meters is obviously a large area. Like if somebody's on top of you and you cast this on them, it's going to take them so long to get the distance away from you. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I think this is definitely worth testing also. Hex Siphon, light armor, max magicka spell damage, spell crit, 5-piece spell damage whenever you bash an enemy. This is the one we talked about yesterday also. It's interesting, but it's got a weird bash proc. With the new Magicka Fury, I don't know if this set's even worth trying to get anymore. In my opinion. This is just my opinion. Magicka Fury, just, yeah. Pestilent Host, medium armor, physical pen, max stamina, weapon damage, physical pen. Whenever you kill an enemy afflicted with a poison effect, their corpse releases a writhing mass of Fetraflies, which seek out the nearest enemy within 12 meters, causing them to bleed for 31,000 physical damage over 10 seconds. That's a huge proc. 31,000 over 10 seconds is pretty large, but you have to kill an enemy. So it's going to be interesting. It's a very weird proc condition. I don't think the proc is great. Like, the damage is a lot, but it's not going to go to necessarily to the person you want. This looks like a 1vx style set because you have to kill somebody. If it procs off of killing a pet, that makes it a lot more powerful. Like if you can, put a poison injection on Blastbone and it blows up and you kill it, is it then going to launch this at somebody? That's the stuff that I would like to see. But yeah, like you only get that one-time proc. You have to kill somebody in order to get it, and then it's going to go to somebody else. It might not be the next person that you want to target. I mean, the 2 through 5 piece is good. I talked about this yesterday, but you have almost 3,000 pen, 129 weapon damage, 1,000 max stamina. Like we're getting close to Spriggan's level damage here. So it's not bad just for damage by itself. The proc is weird, and so once again, I don't think it's necessarily bad. Like the proc condition's so weird. I don't know if I would run it for that reason, if that makes sense. Explosive Rebuke, heavy armor, max stamina, max health, weapon and spell damage. When you successfully block, you place a bomb on the enemy for 10 seconds. When they're hit with a fully charged heavy attack, the bomb detonates, dealing 13,000 flayed damage to all enemies within 8 meters. This effect can occur once every 8 seconds. I mean, this is a back bar set for a lot of classes. Like you now have the back bar proc set. So, once again, fully charged heavy attack. You know, this with the new this fully charged heavy attack, like you're going to do some damage. So new mythic items, Ring of the Pale Order, restore 15% of the damage you deal as health. You cannot be healed by anyone but yourself. That's going to be the new solo mythic, in my opinion. I think that's going to be pretty powerful for that sort of thing. Anything outside of solo play, not very good. You're just not going to, if you're playing with another person, I mean, unless they're a stam spec that can't give you any sort of off heals, you know, like you should not be running this. You know, like if you're two stam blades running around, yeah, maybe both of you running this. You know, if you're running, like if you're two stamplars, I probably wouldn't run this. You know, like I don't know. I think this is just solo only. Pearls of El Nilfe. Whenever you cast a healing ability while your dominant resource is under 30%, gain 5 ultimate. That's super interesting. This is a super interesting set. Dominant resource under 30%. I gain 5 ultimate. Like, when I look at this, I see DK stuff. And so, I don't know. Once again, this is unique. This doesn't look as powerful. You know, when you look at the other proc sets like Markarth, Torque, all these other proc sets, the boots, this Ring of the Pale Order, these all look powerful. This one, I mean, dominant resource under 30%, gain 5 ultimate. I mean, this could be pretty close on a healer, I guess. I mean, this could turn into a lot of resto ults. This could turn into a lot of resto ults, I suppose. I mean, it's only 5 ultimate. And you have to cast the healing ability. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this one. This one doesn't look too great. I'll have to go and look at some stuff. A lot of stuff looks interesting, but nothing's really like standing out so far outside of that, the mythic ring. Transmute crystals, battleground updates. We already talked about this stuff yesterday. They're allowed a group queue for battlegrounds. Transmute's got the overall cap got increased. New PvP emote. Okay, new homes. Client optimization and stability. Oh, hold on. We made some improvements to client performance in situations where there are many players using many abilities. These situations are some of the most demanding we have in game from a performance perspective. Now with optimizations to parallelization, thread contention, and sorting, players in these intense scenarios should see a reduced impact to FPS and therefore a smoother overall experience. Okay, well, we'll have to see. Dungeons, trials, dungeons. Like I said, I'm gonna skip this stuff. Combat abilities. Fixed few instances where players you witnessed using a movement ability such as charge, teleport, or blink could fail to properly animate. Nice. Fix an issue where activating instant cast area bound abilities could cause your character to stop moving briefly. Okay. Made several improvements to light and heavy attacks as a result of the PTS test we held in March earlier this year. Fix an issue where medium attacks, non-fully charged heavy attacks, could deal less damage than light attacks in some cases and more damage than fully charged heavy attacks in others. Reduce the damage from all ranged light and medium attacks by 10% to ensure they meet range damage standards. Heavy attacks already meet these standards. Okay. All light, medium, and heavy attacks now have a 700 millisecond cooldown, unique to their weapon configuration. Dual wield, one-handed shield, etc., rather than varying amounts between 500 milliseconds and 1 second. Cast times of heavy attacks have been increased or decreased to ensure their total cast time and cooldown remains the same at this time. Okay. All light, medium, and heavy attacks now dynamically scale with your highest offensive stats. Interesting. Remove the 200 millisecond delay on lightning and restoration staff heavy attacks, preventing some weird hiccups or stutters they could encounter. Fix an issue where dual wield heavy attacks would calculate their sneak attack damage incorrectly, in some cases producing absurdly high results. Yep. Volendrung's medium attacks now properly scale between light and heavy attacks rather than a flat 5,000 damage regardless of charge time. Volendrung's heavy attack damage has been reduced to 7560 down from 10,000. I'm assuming that was 10,000 to meet the normal scaling of a two-handed weapon. All right, here's the buffs and debuffs. This is the important stuff. All major and minor buffs and debuffs have been hard-coded to go through the server validation sooner and more effectively as cached values rather than abilities that exist on your character. This new system will also properly ensure that no two same buffs or debuffs can ever stack in effectiveness rather than needing to be individually spot-checked on each application. It will also prioritize duration-based sources rather than permanent ones, so you do not need to fear losing their effects. While doing so, we have also properly reined in the power of these effects into our set bonus efficiency standard. Minor effects are now worth 2 set bonuses, previously between 0.4 and 4.2, and major effects are worth 4, previously between 2.4 and 13.3. The new values can be found below. Here we go. Minor Expedition. Increased to 15% up from 10%. So Stam Sorks a little bit faster. Major Savagery and Prophecy increased to 12% up from 10%. It's a little bit more crit chance. Minor Breach increased to 2974 up from 1320. Wow, Minor Breach got a huge buff. Major Breach increased to 5948 up from 5280. Major Breach now affects both physical and spell resistance equally. So there you go. This is one of the buff changes I think they did. So Major Fracture, if I remember correctly, Minor and Major Fracture yeeted from this plane of existence to embrace its missing other half, Minor and Major Ward. Yeah, so I think Major Breach is now just the words for it. So this does, Minor and Major Fracture do not exist anymore. Major Breach is now this. Minor Resolve increased to 2974 up from 1320. Major Resolve also increased, so people are going to be a little bit tankier, a little bit more pen. Interesting. Minor Fortitude, Endurance, and Intellect. So Magicka regen, Health regen, and Stamina regen increased to 20% up from 10%. So Rally got a buff here. Major Fortitude, Endurance, and Intellect. Tripods got an increase here too, doubled. Holy crap. So a lot of people, so I'm going to talk about these individually because it's going to, there's no way you can paint the whole picture, right, of what changes are going to be. Like you guys see all these listed out here. There's going to be a lot of moving parts here. There's no way any of us are going to know exactly where the patch is going to lie. So I'm just going to continue to name the buffs and explain like how this impacts your build, and you guys can kind of, you know, attempt to figure it out yourselves, and we'll all figure it out along the way. But 20% buff to recovery for tripods is pretty crazy, as well as this minor endurance buff for rally. Stamina classes are going to have a lot more recovery just passively. A lot more passive recovery, meaning you can stack into more damage, or you can just keep the recovery, up to you. Obviously, Magicka classes are going to have it as well. I mean, everybody uses tripods, so Minor Defile decreased to 8% down from 15%. So Minor Defile is halved. Major Defile is also halved, 16% down from 30%. So Major and Minor Defile aren't as powerful as they used to be. Werewolves, Necromancers, Stamina Necromancers, all classes that are really utilizing Defiles in order to wear down their enemy, they got a pretty substantial nerf here. Yeah, I can't complain. Major Mending decreased to 16% down from 25%. DK's got a reduce in healing, so did Wardens. Major Vitality decreased to 16% down from 30%. Major Vitality you can get with Malabeth, and potions, so pretty substantial nerf there. Major Evasion got a slight decrease, 20% down from 25%. I would say that this could do a little bit more. I think you could drop Major Evasion down to 15%, and it would still be a pretty valuable buff. Major Evasion is one of the strongest buffs in PvP, and yeah, it hard counters a few builds. Minor Berserk decreased to 5% down from 8%, so anybody running Camo Hunter is getting a slight nerf there. Major Berserk decreased to 10% down from 25%. This is not many classes are really utilizing Major Berserk. You know, I am a little bit on my Nightblade. Yeah, Heem Jaws, pretty sure is Major Berserk if I remember correctly. Minor Protection decreased to 5% down from 8%. Major Protection, a huge nerf, 30% down to 10%. Minor Maim, 15% to 5%. Major Maim, it was 25% down to 10%. So that set that was giving Major Maim, it's a 10% damage reduction for a 2-piece. It's still good. Like 10% damage reduction for a 2-piece is nice, but you know, it's not the 25. Minor Vulnerability, 5% down from 8. Major Vulnerability, 25 to 10. So, you know, though you Magicka Necromancers using, you know, Vulnerability ult, you got a pretty substantial nerf here. Minor Magicka Steel decreased to 168 per hit, down from 300. Wow, Ellie Drain took a hit. Interesting. Major Aegis and Slayer decreased to 10% down from 15%. Fixed an issue where Aegis was additive rather than multiplicative. Okay. Minor Courage increased to 215 up from 129. Major Courage is increased to 430 up from 258. So a set like Spell Power Cure is now getting a pretty substantial buff here. 430 spell hit and weapon damage. Pretty interesting. Major Force increased to 20% up from 15%. Wow. Okay. Minor Brittle increases the target's critical damage taken by 10%. Okay. Major Brittle. This nickname is, I'm sorry, it makes me laugh. Major Brittle increases the target's critical damage taken by 20%, not yet sourced. Okay. Minor Cowardice. This debuff has been reworked and now reduces the target's weapon and spell damage by 215 rather than increasing their ultimate cost by 60%. Excellent. Major Cowardice reduces the target's weapon and spell damage by 430. Empower. This buff now applies to all light, medium, and heavy attacks for its duration and is no longer consumed on use. Wow. Empower is back. Instead of just light attacks, light, medium, heavy. Interesting. The following source of Empower now lasts 3 seconds, down from 5 to reflect the change that Empower is no longer consumed. Aegis of Galloway, Might of the Guild, Empowering Grip, Wrecking Blow, Ambush. All right. Now that these bonuses have been reined in, okay, so these are a lot of changes. Overall, I mean, the gist of it is people are going to be less tanky because of the major buffs. Major Maim, Major Protection got, cut in half or more. So you're not going to be as tanky. You're not going to heal as much. And your damage scaling isn't going to be as high. So having access to these major buffs isn't as powerful as it was before. I talked about this a few patches ago and, talked about the tanky meta and all that and things that they could do. And, on this channel, on Ness's channel, I know Zdan talked about it quite a bit. I know Unified Gaming talked about it a bit. We all talked about how adjusting the major and minor buffs made a lot of sense because, they were just scaling really high and the major and minor buff system just allowed for, some ridiculous things that you could do. And so reducing some of these made a lot of sense. And it looks like they went out and they did that. And so what I think is interesting and what I wanted to talk about with you guys is, if you have an interesting idea or if you have an idea that makes sense, if it makes sense, it seems like ZeniMax is listening. And so I'm not saying, they're listening to my videos or anything like that. What I think happens is I talk to you guys and, we get the ball rolling on, interesting conversations. Everybody listens, or we all think about it a little bit more. We come up with our own ideas. We get the think tank going, and those ideas kind of spread to the forums. And, people talk about it on the forums. They talk about, ideas. And if they make sense and they make sense for the game, you potentially get adjustments like this. And so I think that's pretty cool. I think that's definitely all you guys listening to this channel and, letting your voices be heard on the forums in a constructive way. I think you should. I think it's. I like these changes personally. I think these buffs getting adjusted the way they did. I think it makes a lot of sense because I talked about it a few patches ago. But yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's cool that ZeniMax is listening to the community about stuff like this because I know a lot of people have been talking about how these things need to be adjusted. So very, very cool. Necromancer changes. Gravelord, Blastbones. Made some improvements to the cooldown duration of this ability to reduce the chances of it becoming locked out despite the skeleton dying. Okay. Frozen Colossus. Remove this ultimate and the Morph's major vulnerability. Invulnerability? Increase the duration of major vulnerability applied to these to 12 seconds per hit, up from 8. This will increase the total duration to 15 seconds per cast. Interesting. So yeah, so you're going to see them increase the duration of these major buffs because the major buffs aren't as powerful as they used to be. Nightblade, Assassination. Executioner passive. This passive now restores 50 to 1000 magic and stamina when it procs rather than 938 and 1876. Magic or stamina depending on your highest maximum. Okay. So we get some passive recovery. Not as big of a number, but you get both rather than just the one. That's how I'm reading it. Master Assassin. This is a huge change. This passive now increases your physical and spell penetration against targets you are flanking by 1487, 2974, rather than your weapon and spell damage against them by 129, 258. This is a huge jump in damage for Nightblades in PvP. While this passive is now in a much better place regarding its accessibility and use cases from Update 27, the class is performing a bit too well in high-end PvE DPS. With the adjustment to penetration, you can expect a little more damage in non-optimized PvE and PvP encounters against high mitigation targets, while tuning back some of their scaling in high-end PvE content and specialized gank builds in PvP. This is, yeah. Pen just scales better in open world PvP than weapon and spell damage. And a flank is anything from your shoulder around your back to your other shoulder. It's easy to proc. The fact that you get this is just... It's really good on a class that didn't need it, is what I'm saying. Stamina Nightblade didn't need it, and now they're going to be hitting even harder. Yeah, I mean, any sort of flanking, so it should impact snipe, you know, so this is once again, you know, those snipe gankers that could get within 7 meters of you to snipe with the new bow, they're now double dipping in more damage. You know, they get the 33% more, they get this pen. Once again, this is a buff for Nightblades. However, as you're seeing, like, they keep buffing Nightblades, and in my opinion, Nightblades don't really need buffs right now. You know, stamina Nightblades do not need buffs at the moment. What would be nice is to round out the class. There's a lot of not so good skills in the Nightblade skill line, so to round out the class and make those skills a little bit more viable in open world PvP or PvE or whatever, so that you have a more robust toolkit, that'd be fantastic. There are some classes that are in very good spots, and rounding out toolkits at that point should be the goal. You know, like Wardens, Necromancers, Sorks, Nightblades, they're all in pretty good spots, and so rounding out the toolkits for those makes sense. Other classes kind of need to be brought up, in my opinion, in some ways, and then, you know, like Magic and Necromancer needs to be brought up from a single target aspect with what they give, in my opinion, of course. But yeah, I don't know about this one, Chief. I don't know. Path of Darkness, refreshing path, fix an issue where the visuals from this ability's heal could last much longer than intended. Summon Shade, fix an issue where this ability and Morph's pet could attack innocents in some cases. Okay. Sorry, I just have to say this, but I almost have a 5-star Stamina Nightblade. So if you think I'm bitching about Stamina Nightblade and I don't know what I'm talking about, this is my most played class. So I feel like I have to say that because I know somebody's gonna be like, oh, you just hate Nightblades. I know there's gonna be somebody in the comments that's now unironically going to go, you hate Nightblades, when it's the class that I've played the most. So I just have to get that out there. For my own sake, not for you guys. That was for me. Sometimes you got to do stuff for yourself. Soul Shred, Soul Siphon, fix an issue where this ultimate could aggro enemies despite dealing no damage. All right. Drain Power, Power Extraction. This morph now applies minor cowardice to enemies hit rather than reducing their weapon and spell damage by a unique amount. This will result in a larger decrease in weapon and spell damage, but one that cannot be stacked with other sources. See. Nice. I like this. Reduce the base duration by 1 second, but the ability now ranks up in duration of this by 1 second per rank up to 10 seconds. So this one used to just have a unique buff. If I remember correctly, it was just, at one point it was just weapon damage. And I was like, okay, well, you reduce, it was either weapon or spell damage. I can't remember which one, but it was just like, it was just pointless. It was like, okay, well, half the people you're fighting, you're just not going, it's not going to affect them, you know? So this makes a lot of sense. Reducing their weapon and spell damage by up to 430 makes Power Extraction kind of an interesting little skill. We're gonna have to go look at that one. Well, once again, rounding out the skills. I think this makes it interesting. I think this is definitely something to look at. Templar, Adric Spear. Spear Shards fix an issue where the synergy from this ability could remove other synergies after being consumed. All right. Sun Shield, Blazing Shield Morph. Fix an issue where this ability's explosion visuals will multiply in intensity with the number of enemies hit, causing your screen to experience level 7 earthquakes and your eyes to be blinded with the brilliance of Meridia. Wow. I didn't know it was level 7 earthquakes. That's a lot. That's a lot of earthquakes. Explosions will now always appear as well, regardless if you dealt damage. Sounds good. Healing ritual. Ritual rebirth. Sorry, guys. We're halfway done. You know how these patch notes get. Fix an issue where this heal was targeting the ally furthest from you within its range, rather than prioritizing allies who need the heal. Interesting. I did not know that. Warden changes. Animal companions, Feral Guardian. Fix an issue where this ultimate morph special attack, Crushing Swipe, could fail to hit large monsters like dragons or titans. Okay. Scorch, Subterranean Assault. The stamina morph. This morph no longer applies major fracture, as deep fissure now affects all armor. I think they meant breach. So they changed it. If you read above, I think this is a mistype, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong. My eyes are going blurry. You know, I've been reading for a lot, but they got rid of fracture. Breach now applies spell and physical pen. So because Subterranean Assault provides, you know, breach and fracture, I think that's what they're saying. I think you still get the same buff. It's just not called fracture. And we'll check on the PTS, and if you've checked on the PTS and you can confirm, that would be great. But I'm pretty sure that's what they're trying to say. As deep fissure, I think they mean breach now affects all armor. This ability now recasts itself after completing once per cast. So this is a huge change. Okay, so once again, like, this is one of those really nice quality of life changes, in my opinion. Nobody on this channel, meaning me, because I'm the only person on this channel, I am never going to say that Stamina Warden is in a bad spot, you know, because it's not. Stamina Warden is a very, very powerful class. It is one of the strongest. It's one of the best classes in the game. However, I think we can agree that Stamina Warden is very buff intensive, and that's been one of the problems with Stamina Necromancer over the years, and things that they've slowly been mitigating is the amount of abilities you have to cast on a Warden, you know, to keep all your buffs up, to keep everything up. Like, it just feels like a slower play style sometimes, you know, like a Nightblade, you get in there and it's like you're just swinging your, you know, it's just, combat is a lot more combat based on a Stamina Nightblade, whereas in a Warden it's like buff, cast this, you know, it feels more methodical. And so this is going to eliminate some of that. So when you hit your sub assault, it will automatically cast again immediately afterwards. You don't have to worry about casting it. So that means you can continue to do other things. I think this is a nice change. I think it's going to take some getting used to. We'll have to see, like, if Fracture or Breach is still on Sub Assault, but the fact that it recasts itself after you cast it once is going to be a nice quality of life change, in my opinion. Now, when it recasts itself, is it going to consume the stamina? You know, like, is it going to consume the stamina that it cost before? Probably. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see everything that it's going to do, but on paper, I actually kind of like this. I think this makes some sense overall for just, you know, playing Stamina Warden. Destruction Staff, Frost Staves have received adjustments to help them further stand out as a tank and support-oriented weapon type. Check out each ability adjusted to see what's changed with the Frost version of the ability. All right, let's see this. The original intent of the Frost Staff line was to enable magic users to successfully tank in PvE and PvP scenarios. Many of the tools provided by Frost Staff abilities either did not hold up to other tanking abilities or directly conflicted with other Destruction Staff abilities. Correct. For update 28, one of our goals is to update the Frost Staff line to address these concerns, making Frost Staff abilities more in line with our tanking gameplay, while also removing the pain points from the staff. We also added more overall utility to the Frost Staff skills, giving them more viability as a backbar weapon to complement support and bruiser playstyles. All right. Applying Chilled while actively holding a Frost Staff now applies Minor Brittle in addition to its other effects. Note the staff must be on your active bar when Chilled is applied for this to proc. So Minor Brittle is what, 10% more? More 10% more critical damage. All right, so Minor Brittle is 10% more critical damage. So when you apply the Chilled status effect, which is charge plus, you know, enchant, you can now get 10% more critical damage on top of it. Wow. Wow. You must be on your active bar when shield is applied for this to proc. Destruction Expert. This passive now also grants 900, 1800 magicka when you absorb damage with a Frost Staff damage shield. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. Okay. Destructive Touch. Fix an issue where this ability and the Destructive Clench morph would aggro enemies before dealing damage. Destructive Clench. The Frost version of this morph now taunts enemies for 15 seconds. Alright. Impulse. Each element type of this ability and its morphs have gained new functionality. Flame Impulse now deals bonus damage at scales based on missing health if the target hit was burning. Wow, okay. Frost Impulse now applies minor protection up to 6 group members for 6 seconds. Shock Impulse now deals 5% more damage for each enemy hit, up to 30%. Wow, like that's crazy. Shock Impulse does up to 30% more damage. Trifocus. This passive no longer causes your heavy attacks with the Frost Staff to taunt the enemy. Okay. Increase the strength of the damage shield granted from heavy attacking with the Frost Staff to 12.5, 25% of your max health, up from 4 to 8%. That's a huge change. That's a huge damage shield on a heavy attack. 25% health damage shield on a heavy attack? Wow. That's crazy. Wall of Elements. Frost version of this ability now applies a damage shield to you and 5 nearby ally members that absorb projectiles but no longer snares enemies, and deals 25% less damage than the other elemental version. Okay. How big's the damage shield? Fix an issue where the shock version of this ability and its morphs was not capped at hitting 6 targets despite having auxiliary debuffs. Elemental Blockade. The Frost version of this morph now applies an additional smaller shield on you and group members in the area when it ends. Yeah, I have to know how big the shield is. This, once again, this could be really good. This could be just bad. I have no idea until we know the shield size. One-handed shield, Deadly Bash. Fix an issue where this passive could be active while not wearing a sword and shield, which caused your character to fail to bash properly when at low stamina, making you appear to jitter as if you drank Tamriel's largest cup of coffee spiked with moon sugar. Okay. Puncture. This ability now applies Major Breach rather than Fracture. Same thing. Pierce Armor. This morph now applies Minor Breach as well. Two-handed Berserker Strike. Fix an issue where this ultimate and morphs Camera Shake when striking multiple targets would make you experience a brief but violent earthquake. Camera Shake is now the same despite how many enemies you hit and is much more tame. Alright. Armor. Fix an issue where some passive bonuses do not apply to your pets. Werewolf. Transforming into a werewolf in front of NPCs will now properly be considered a criminal act and generate infamy. Roar and Hercine's Bounty. These abilities will now always apply their major buffs while slotting rather than only while in werewolf form. This will fix issues where slotting these abilities outside of werewolf form could prevent you from gaining their effects from any source. Hercine's Rage. This morph now increases your damage taken by 8 to 5% depending on rank, down from 23 to 20. So yeah, huge nerf in damage taken. Keep in mind that Berserk also got nerfed, so that's part of the reason why this is getting adjusted. The buff isn't as strong, so the cost isn't as much. Champion system. Reduce the weapon and spell critical chance granted from perfect strike and spell precision to 3% each, down from 9%. Okay. Consumables. Potions and poisons that apply minor defile. Now properly mentioned, they also affect health recovery in their tooltips. Potions and poisons that once applied minor fracture or breach have been made into unique bonuses. These values remain at 1320 and 5280. Interesting. So potions, these can now stack. Interesting. Activating consumable or other quick slotted item will no longer cancel in progress casts and instead will now wait until after the cast is complete. Okay. Crafted sets, Daedric Trickery. The major buffs granted from the set now last 21 seconds, up from 16. Keep in mind all these major buffs got nerfed. That's why they're increasing the duration. Reduce the cooldown of getting all major buffs to 9 seconds, down from 20. This means if the Mad God favors you, you can have up to 3 major buffs active at once from the set, or if he's displeased, only 1. Will you be tempted by his honeyed words? Interesting. Daedric Trickery is really interesting. Hissbark. Set's 3-piece bonus is now max stamina rather than health recovery. Innate axiom, fix an issue where the set's bonus weapon and spell damage do not apply to special activities from pets such as activates from pets such as summon familiar's damage pulse. Magnus's gift, fix an issue where the set's visuals have failed to apply when the set procced. Night Mother's gaze, the set now applies major breach for 4 seconds rather than major fracture for 6 seconds when you critically strike an enemy. I've already gone over that. Night Mother's gaze is a mag set is interesting now. Noble's Conquest, the set now procs off any bash rather than interrupts. Heal now heals for 9372 health over 10 seconds rather than 4300 instantly. Added a 10-second cooldown to the heal. Spectre's Eye, increase the duration and cooldown of major evasion granted from the set to 30 seconds, up from 5 and 10 respectively. Unchained Aggressor, increase the duration of major berserk granted to 12 seconds, up from 6. Reduce the cooldown to 14 seconds, down from 16. Okay, so Unchained Aggressor is major berserk. Major berserk, I think, got dropped to 10%. So Unchained Aggressor gives you a 10% bonus for 12 out of 14 seconds when you CC break. Okay. I mean, it kind of depends on when you CC break. 10% is a pretty nice bonus. I don't know. We'll have to go back and look at this one again. I mean, 10% for 12 out of 14 seconds. Depending on like when you take your CCs, like this could actually be a viable set now. But yeah, we'll have to check that out. Dungeon and Arena sets, Banny's Torment, increase the duration of the beam to 15 seconds, up from 5. This is the one that gives you the major maim. Increase the cooldown to 15 seconds, up from 14. So yeah, you can just have maim up for longer. Drozakar's Claws, fix an issue where the set could fail to activate. Durok's Bane, increase the duration of major defile granted the set to 5 seconds, up from 4. Reduce cooldown to 7 seconds, down from 8. Major defile got gutted pretty hard. Draugr Rest, the set now has a friendly telegraph to denote its area of effect. Hand of Mafala, reduce the snare potency of this set to 33%, down from 50%. Haven of Ursus, fix numerous issues with the targeting for the set synergy. The shield granted will now always grant itself to the 6 lowest targets in a 28-meter radius of the synergizer rather than the wearer of the set and 6 more. Fix an issue where the shield was not enhanced by the harmony trade. Okay. Healer's Habit, the set now grants an additional 5% healing done when wearing 5 pieces. I'll have to go look at this one. Keemjaw's Retribution, the set now grants up to 129 weapon damage when wearing 5 pieces. Increase the duration of Major Berserk to 10 seconds, up from 5. Okay. Ironblood. The set now grants a unique 30% damage reduction rather than major protection, so now Ironblood stacks with all these other things. Jailer's Tenacity. Increase the duration to 8 seconds, up from 5. I can't remember what that one is. Nightmare. The set now also grants up to 1206 max health when wearing 5 pieces. The 4-piece bonus is now armor instead of weapon damage. Increase the duration of minor maim to 5 seconds, up from 2. Added a 3-second cooldown. Okay. Scathing Mage. Fixed the issue where some direct damage attacks that were bound to areas would fail to proc the set, such as Elemental Ring. Alright. Sunder Flame. Reduce the damage done to 12,500 over 10 seconds from 13,600. I thought Sunder Flame was already a not so good set, and it's getting nerfed. Interesting. Overland set, Champions of the Hist, increase the max health the set grants to 5-piece 1600, up from 1206. Okay. Race of Gloom, reduce the cooldown of the set to 20 seconds, down from 25. The heal from the set now heals for 2550 every 2 seconds rather than 1096 every second. This should also significantly reduce the visual rave-like noise of the set. Okay. Mad Tinkerer, fix an issue where this tooltip still stated it had a cooldown despite not having one. Order of Diana, the set now grants an additional 5% healing taken when wearing 5 pieces. Shock Exoskeleton, increase the spell damage the set grants on its 5-piece to 171, up from 129. Still not worth running, I don't think. Vampire Cloak, set now grants up to 171 spell damage when wearing 5 pieces. This is the one that gives you the minor protection, if I remember correctly. Venomous Smite, fix an issue where the visuals for the set could remain after the effect ended, such as when the target removed the ability via purge or died. Warrior Poet, increase the max health the set grants in its 5-piece to 1600, up from 1206. Wisdom of Vanus, increase the duration of major mending granted to the set to 5 seconds, up from 3. Okay. Lots of minor changes. Affliction. Increase the damage per proc to 2278, up from 1830. Coward's Gear, the set now grants up to 250 stamina recovery when wearing 5 pieces. Wow. Solace Guile, the set now only activates while in combat to help reduce the radiant message of the area of effect spam it creates. Visuals have also been adjusted to proc each tick, but with less aggressive sounds. Awesome. Set now also grants up to 1487 armor when wearing 5 pieces. Like he's focused, reduce the damage penalty of your area of effect attacks to 5%, down from 15%. Alright, so this gives you major evasion. Wow. Okay. Steadfast Hero, increased duration of major protection granted to 10 seconds, up from 5. Reduce the cooldown to 12 seconds, down from 18. So another 5-piece bonus with longer duration on major protection. Ward of Cyrodiil, increased duration of major defile for the set up to 4 seconds, up from 3. Trial sets. The following sets now grant their major buff every 1 second for every 10 ultimate spent, rather than every 14. Increase the resource on kill of the following sets. Sorry, these are PvE sets. Don't care too much for them. Yondir's might got a big change. I'm not gonna... That's gonna make me dizzy just reading through it. Yondir's interesting. The changes are interesting. I'll probably do a gear set review going over what Yondir is now. Basically, they lowered the stacks, but they lowered the stack damage, but they increased the amount of stacks. It's too much for me to do right now. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. Lady Thorn, Sanguine's Burst Major Maim now lasts 8 seconds, up from 5. Reduce the cooldown per target to 20 seconds, down from 30. Alright. Pirate Skeleton. Fix numerous issues with weapon swapping and blocking while under the change of appearance of this item set. This finally means this set will no longer interrupt you if you were holding block while it activated. Remove the proc chance from the set. Okay. Increase the duration of all effects to 15 seconds, up from 10. Increase the cooldown to 20 seconds, up from 15. Set now applies minor defile to you rather than major defile. So, major protection for 15 out of 20 seconds. It will happen off of cooldown because there's no proc chance. You know, like once you're off a cooldown and you take damage, you're going to proc the set. 10% damage mitigation with minor defile instead of major. Yeah, it's not 30%. You know, it's 10% damage mitigation, but still it's 10%. I mean, Pirate Skeleton is... It's not what it used to be, but it's back, if that makes sense. That's actually quite nice, in my opinion. Scourge Harvester. Increase the duration of the set to 6 seconds, up from 4. Reduce the tick frequency to 1 second, down from 500 milliseconds. Total healing from the set is now 7490 over 6 seconds, rather than 5715 over 4. Okay. Fix an issue where the major vitality granted from the set could persist longer than the beam did. Yeah, so major vitality got nerfed. And so Malabeth is now nerfed also. So they increased the duration on it here. Vicosa set now applies major cowardice to enemies rather than a unique debuff to prevent situations where you could reduce the target's weapon and spell damage to 0, causing them to deal no damage. Increase the duration 8 seconds, up from 5. Fix an issue where the set was not properly labeled as a proc. Ability altering weapons, concentrated force, fix an issue where the visuals for the set's proc did not display. Mender's Ward, increase the duration of major vitality granted from the set to 4 seconds, up from 2. Yeah. See if there's anything else here. Furnishing, homes, miscellaneous, quests and zones. A lot going on here, guys. There's a lot in here. A lot of slight adjustments. Overall, the biggest takeaway to get from this is we got some new sets worth farming. They basically adjusted all the major and minor buffs and debuffs so that they aren't as impactful as they used to be, but they increased the duration of them, so you're going to have them for longer, but they're not going to be as effective. A lot of changes in both directions, but overall I think a lot of these changes are really good. We're gonna have to get in the new arena and get farming and stuff. If you guys have any questions or comments, please put it in the section below. I will be testing these different sets out. I will be getting into the new arena to try that out also. Yeah, overall no complaints. What do you guys think? Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.